Hey guys, welcome back to another exciting edition of Need More Coffee Please with Cisco and Melissa. My name is Cisco.
My name's Melissa.
In last episode, the last couple episodes, we've been talking about us going through the Campfire, the wildfire that was in Paradise, California in 2018. And the last episode, we left you with going to Melissa's brother's house, which is about an hour and a half away or so from Paradise, just to get away from all of that craziness out there.
Yeah, we had ended up at my niece's, and then she was down in Chico, and then she ended up getting an evacuation notice. I can't remember what, not. I think warning is when it's like mandatory.
Yeah.
I don't know, but anyway,
Voluntary.
the one where you like voluntarily evacuate. It's not. It's just more like you might have to. Which they ended up not needing to, but we were just like, at that point,
we needed to get
like, and just to give her the space if she ended up, having to evacuate herself and her family. So we ended up with my brother's, and we were there, well, between his house and a hotel. And a friend of theirs had like an apartment above a garage. We didn't know them before, prior to that happening. But we all ended, or us and our kids ended up staying there. I don't remember how long, but between those locations, the hotel and the apartment and my brother's, that was 2 months time. So we ended up moving into an apartment in Roseville on December 31st. Fire happened November 8th, and right before the new year, we had tried to get back to not Paradise, but Chico. But us and 20,000 other people were also trying to get back to Chico. And they were already like in a housing shortage before the fire. So that area was just, there was no place. And so we really had tried because our jobs were up there. The kids' schools were attempting to do like some type of,
remote or something.
They weren't doing, but they were like in other locations. But you've got all these traumatized kids, homeless kids. Like it was a mess. So it wasn't necessarily the best situation to try to get back to, but it's what you do. And all the doors were closed. Like every door we tried to go through just was slammed shut. So we finally decided to just relocate to Roseville. It's much easier. It was an hour and a half away, which wasn't great, but it was a lot easier to do that. And
for sure. It was far enough away to where there was a handful of other Paradise refugees in the area, but not many. By the time we got down that far, there just wasn't as many as there was in Chico, the town over, especially, and just those surrounding areas in Butte County. So it was, the whole reason we even moved out there from Colorado was to be close to family. And then we got there, we were there for a couple months, and then we were an hour and a half away,
and once again, having to start completely over.
And literally having to start over, like, like when we first got married almost, it's like, I remember, once we were in that apartment, having to go and get new dishes and get new silverware and get couches and bed. Everything you could think of, pretty much we lost just about everything.
Well, yeah.
So
Everything.
we had to start all over again, and it was weird.
And not fun. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I remember people being like, "Oh, it must be so fun to like go get, you know, like all new things." And it was so overwhelming, and I don't even know how to put it into words, like how awful it really was. Like there was nothing, absolutely nothing fun about it. Maybe in another time frame, like any other circumstance, maybe, you know, like that could be fun, but that one, no. Like even just going to the store to shop for clothes was the most overwhelming and depressing thing ever. And it wasn't just, you know, like us that was experiencing that. I remember my sister and I had gone, you know, to Old Navy, you know, because I mean, we literally didn't have anything, like not even a clean pair of underwear, you know, not a toothbrush. Like we had nothing. So you have to go try and get stuff. And it would just, I don't know, like it was so overwhelming. And the whole time you're thinking about all the thing, you know, just like trying on pants, which sucks anyway. Like that's never fun. But you're like thinking of all the pants you had before that you know had for years that fit you great, and like you can't even, you don't have that anymore. I don't know. So it's just a really weird thing, and yeah, just so overwhelming. And
I mean, we had stuff, you know. I had clothes and stuff from like high school. You know, I've had it for what, at that point it was 15, 20 years or something like that. And now all of a sudden that's all gone. All our baby pictures, wedding pictures, any sort of memorabilia, baby clothes, anything that would and could remind us of, you know, when we got married, when the kids were little, all that stuff was gone, you know. And again, it's just stuff, and thank God we were all there. But it was still, it was still hard. Yeah, it was still really difficult to know,
and just like really weird. Like you're kind of, you know, I remember, I mean, even maybe not so much now, but for years, you're like trying to find something, you know, and you're like, where is that? And then you're like trying to think, okay, was that, oh, that was probably, you know, before the fire I had that, you know, and then, but then you're like, well, no, I don't know. That was always like for sure. Such a,
the fire really became a line in our lives of like before the fire, after the fire, not only with our stuff, but with just a lot of like memories and just life and just what, you know, what happened and what we thought of. Because there'd be times I'm like looking in the kitchen, I'm like, man, I could have sworn we had you know, this pot or whatever. Like, oh frick, it burned in the fire. You know, I forgot. You know, or this article of clothing randomly, especially after my stroke, my memory was all funky, and so sometimes I'm like, man, I could have sworn I just saw this shirt in there, and you know, and it was like 5 years ago or whatever, and then just a pile of ash somewhere, you know, and it burned because my memory was so screwed up. So yeah, it was definitely weird. It still is a little bit weird, you know. Every once in a while things like that come up, and then, you know, so you know, so yeah, we were essentially homeless for about 2 months, a little bit less.
Which was actually nothing compared to a lot of other people.
No, man.
You know?
Some people, man, they went through some
like
stuff.
My sisters
horrible.
Both ended up back in Chico, and my brother. And I can't remember, but I know my sisters were living in hotels for way longer than we were, you know, until they ended up getting into eventually a house. But
Yeah, weren't Kim and John there for a hotel
It
for
was
over a year? Over
I
a
think.
year in a hotel with 5 people.
Something like that.
Insane.
Yeah. And their animals.
Yeah.
Dog and a cat. Like, yeah.
Along with the whole hotel was full of Paradise refugees.
Like, they called it Hometel.
Yeah,
their Hometel.
It was
yeah, because they were there for so long. So in a way, like, we were, like, I guess, fortunate that we didn't get back to that area, because who knows how long it would have taken for us to find a place. But it was hard too, like, being so separated from everyone. You're going, like, we went through it too, and there was just so much help and donation stuff, and different things that were just in that area, that we never saw or got to do or whatever, because we were not in the area. But then there were so many excuse me, like, the hotel that we were staying at was so amazingly generous. Like, they bought our kids, like, a bunch of Christmas presents. Insane. Like, we came down and they, there was a Christmas tree in the foyer of the hotel, and all, like, bikes and just all kinds of stuff. And they were so sweet and loving and caring during that time, and it was a different scene in Chico. Like, people were all traumatized and going through this, and Chico hated Paradise because suddenly we were overtaking their town. And there wasn't any of that kind of love and care, or not a lot of it anyway. And we experienced just so much, just so many generous people, who, of course, like, when you're not in the area where it happened, like, you want to do so much, you want to help, and so we were able to be receptive for a lot of that, and that was a huge blessing. But yeah, it was, it was tough not being able to, I don't know, go through, like, we were close enough, but not, like, I don't know. And maybe because we hadn't lived by family for so long, like, I felt like we were constantly always in this spot of not being able to go through the hard things with family. And then here we are again, even though we were in the same state, like, again, we weren't able to really go through it with them. So I don't know, there's just a lot about it that is really hard to reconcile, I guess, in your mind, which is, I guess, grief in general. Like, that's kind of how it goes. Even in all, the things that you can see, okay, God worked this out for good, or, this was good in it. Like, there's still so much that is really hard and that you'll never be able to make sense of. And even to this day, like, for me, especially, sorry, I'm totally taking this one over, but, it took a lot, many, many years for me to ever want to move back to that area. And, I had spent the couple years prior to us moving back just really getting excited for it, and, being able to raise my kids with their cousins and my sisters and my mom. And that took a lot for me. Not necessarily being with my family, but just being in that area for various reasons. But, like, because when I left, I was like, I'm never coming back. Like, I hated it. So I felt like the Lord had done, like, such a work in my heart to bring me to that place to ever want that. And then we were there for literally 5 months, and it was absolute hell, living with my sisters and us fighting, and just so much drama that happened during that summer. And and then we look back and we're like, man, if we'd known, like if we'd only known, like none of that, the stuff that we were fighting over and like so stressed about meant nothing. It absolutely means nothing, the second the fire happened. Like, and yeah, if we'd known, we would have spent those months completely different, and instead we were stressed and it was awful. I mean, we look back on those memories now and laugh, but
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it just, I don't know. It's a really hard one for me. Even to this day, like, even though we love where we're at, it hurts sometimes, So yeah, why did he bring us all the way back there just to kind of rip that out from under us, like all the things that we'd wanted to do with the kids and have them experience, like we never got to do any of it, and as hard as that was for us, on the flip side, for all the people who lived in paradise for their entire, lives and their kids' lives, and were so set in that community, and having that ripped away from them, I can't even imagine how hard that is for all of them. I mean, we've gone through so much upheaval and like having to start over again in our lives, like we're in a way, it was like we're kind of used to it, although this was extremely hard and painful, because we didn't choose it at all, but I just felt so much for like people like my sisters and my brother and my mom, who were there for
forever,
decades, and their kids grew up going to preschool together, and suddenly it's all gone, and it was really, it's really weird, just having like the place you grew up in, all your childhood memories, like all the places that I grew up going to are gone, and it'll never be the same, as much as I've seen a lot of stuff in the media lately with that movie The Lost Bus. I think I called it something else in the last episode, but it's called The Lost Bus is the movie, and people are trying to say, oh yeah, it's a thriving community now, and no, it's not. Like
sometimes it's difficult to really try to reconcile and try to figure out what God is doing and why. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, God really put it on Melissa's heart to move back, and I was on board too, which wasn't was that happening. First of all, it was a miracle that she wanted to go back, and that I was like, okay, yeah, let's go. Let's go to paradise, because that was again 180 degrees from where I grew up or anything like that. But I just really felt like, yeah, we should have our kids grow up next to family, and be around them. And I love her family, and we really thought it would have been a great opportunity to be there, be around them, and be in the woods and all that business. And then, for the rug to get pulled out from under us in about 5 months' time was like, well, what the heck was that? All of that for? That doesn't make sense. Why we would have came out there, of all that, we could have gotten out there 2 years before that, or a year before that, or why the timing worked out the way it did. I don't know. I don't know if we're ever gonna know really on this side of eternity, but the Lord had and has a plan and a purpose in it. And after that, and after we moved to Roseville, we were there basically up until the summer of 2020. And of course, that March of 2020, COVID happened. And if anybody, I know you guys are from or were in California at the time, it was pretty crazy over there, pretty draconian. A lot of the things that got shut down. I was working for the city of Roseville in the Parks and Rec department, just doing trees, and I got laid off, or we took a break or whatever, and I was working at a restaurant at the same time as well, and they didn't have any. They shut down the inside of the restaurant, so it was only outdoor seating. And they just sent
in the
up
summer.
In the summer, they just set up these pop-up tents in the parking lot, and we still had to wear masks and we had to wear gloves to serve people who, were in this parking lot, and it was sweltering out there. And we were sweating through our masks, through our gloves. I ended up just taking the gloves off and not putting them back on because, this is ridiculous. Basically, in order for gloves to be effective, you have to change them every time you touch something. So I would have had to change gloves out 300 times a day. It just made no sense. But anyway, so we were out there doing that. It just made no sense. Mm-hmm. Everything was closed. Everything was extremely difficult.
We just found a great school for the kids, and that
yeah.
And then that
shut down. Yeah, it was just it was just,
which was the case in a lot of states, but California just seemed
was special,
crazy.
Yes, yeah, and it's a shame because California, we lived in a handful of places. In California, by far, maybe with the exception of Colorado, but it's different. But California is beautiful, man. It has everything you can ever want: mountains, the ocean, the deserts, the forests, everything. I mean, it's just insane how beautiful it is. The weather is amazing. It has so much.
Farmers markets
are out of this world. As everything, honestly, you could really ever want or think of geographically or anything like that. But it's just been run so terribly, and COVID really brought a lot of that out. We were able to, and we kind of looked past certain things and we're like, okay, this kind of is annoying, but whatever, we're here. This is really expensive, but that's okay, and then just COVID just really.
I don't know. I think that was the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, it really made everything a lot worse. It really brought a lot of things to light, and some things that were just slight annoyances at the time really started to become like, okay, this is ridiculous.
And we had, he'd applied for multiple tree jobs, which at the time, there was so much,
especially in that Paradise area.
There was so much work that needed to be done tree wise specifically. So it made no sense that he could not get a job up there. And nothing came through. He was working for the city of Roseville, and he applied for the city of Chico, which he had just got hired with them when the fire happened. Didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then he never actually even got to take the job because the fire happened. And we weren't, able to get back to that area. So he'd applied again and then didn't get the job. And none of these tree companies were calling him back or not. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I had the experience. I was doing it at the time. done it before.
It was desperately needed, like,
yeah,
and none of them got back to him or hired him. And, so at that point it was just like, we're done.
Yeah.
Like, we tried. We really gave our all to try and get back there to Chico. And, considering that was the one reason we had moved back to California, was to be by my family. We were suddenly by none of them. And so we moved to Texas.
Yeah, so that's summer of 2020, along with her brother who lived what, half hour from us or something?
He was like 45 minutes.
45 minutes from us. We decided to what was that, June?
June we came out and visited.
Yeah, we decided to come out and visit Texas. This area specifically, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We checked out a couple different spots. I had my brother lives out here, so that's one of the reasons we were kind of looking at this area as well. And man, it was like a breath of fresh air coming out here. They had the mask mandates and stuff like that, but everything was open. People were out and about doing their thing, and the only real difference was that you could tell everything was going on was with that people were wearing masks, whereas in California, like, things were so shut down, businesses were closed, so many businesses small businesses never reopened, but out here it was a lot different. It felt a lot more free. People in California, there was just a palpable fear, like people were afraid. The government really made people afraid, and out here it was a lot different. And so we came out here, visited, we loved it. That was in June, and then we ended up moving out here in August. And her brother and his wife and their 4 kids moved out here
like the same week. Actually.
Yeah, like the same week. We lived like an hour away from each other, but we came out here from California basically at the same exact time. And so it was a really quick turnaround, because once we visited here and saw it, as soon as we got home,
like ready to go.
Yeah, as soon as we got home, we just started packing. Like, all right, we got to get the heck out of here, And in a lot of ways, we escaped. We escaped California because it was just necessary. In a lot of ways for our mental health, just everything else. It was so expensive out there. There's so much going on, and at the end of the day, it's like. It's funny to think, like, okay, we were in Colorado. We really felt called to go to California, to Paradise specifically. We were there for 5 months. Then we were in Roseville for like a year and a half or something like that. And then we went to Texas. It's like, well, Lord, we could have just went from Colorado to Texas and just skipped California. Like, that just seemed like.
But I don't know that I ever would have. Like,
right,
Texas
that's
was
true.
Never someplace I even wanted to visit, let alone move. It was literally, I remember saying, I don't even know to who, but somebody at some point, like, Texas was like the last state I would ever consider moving to. So, but I don't know. I mean, but then I came and visited, and I was like, okay, it's not at all what I pictured or thought in my head that it was.
Once I had some barbecue, I was like, okay.
Yeah. I tried to gun for Idaho when we.
Yeah, we tried Idaho. We visited in what, April
of
2019.
Yeah.
It was pretty. It was beautiful. I'm not gonna lie. We went to Coeur d'Alene area, and it was really nice out there. But it was freezing, and it was April. It was really cold and windy, and then there was no real jobs there, which was crazy. And then the jobs that they did offer, the wages were really low, but the housing prices and the rental prices were really high, because a lot of what was happening was that there were a lot of Californians and people out of state moving to Idaho, and so it really shot the prices up. And that was even before COVID. So after COVID, I'm sure it was even worse. And so it was just like, I'd have to go back to working 2 jobs, and Melissa would have to work in order for us to make it ends meet, and it didn't really make sense. I think the final straw, honestly, was we went to a supermarket and they had a VHS rental store in the back corner. Like, they legit rented video cassettes like it was 1997. I could not believe it. I'm like, okay, we can't do this. Like, we can't go back 30 years. This is crazy. So anyway, yeah.
So yeah,
we ended up here.
But
we ended up here. And again, it's like, it doesn't make sense the way we went instead of doing a direct route from Colorado to here, but it's like the Lord had a plan and a purpose in it, and he taught us a lot in that year and a half, almost 2 years between that we spent in California and then we came out here. We grew a lot, and even the first 6 months to a year here, like, we were still kind of like, I felt a little bit just kind of lost spiritually, and just kind of like, I didn't know what was going on, what we were doing. We weren't really going to church at the time, and we were, just a little bit untethered, I guess you could say.
And I think there was a little bit of, for a long time, like, fear of really like getting too attached to a place, to people, and it's like we wanted that so badly to be connected and feel like a place was home, but after so many situations where we had that kind of ripped from us, it
got burned.
It just kind of I think there was a lot of hesitancy that we, maybe not intentionally, but definitely kept us from really getting too attached, I think. But and I think I just want to leave this whole series, I guess, with sometimes things happen that don't make sense, and probably never will make sense on this side of heaven. I think like I was saying before, like, even in these hard things, like even with a stroke, you can see the good with the bad, and but that doesn't negate that there is a lot of bad, and that there are things that aren't going to make sense and that are going to hurt, and that's okay to acknowledge that, and to feel those things when they come up. I think it's important to, I'm definitely the type of person, I try to Pollyanna everything and be try to remain positive and optimistic, and especially after going through a series of really hard things. Like, after so much time, like, I just tend to shove, when those thoughts and the hard stuff kind of surfaces, you don't want to feel it all the time, but it's important to, and to even just give yourself grace that, like, it's part of the grieving process, like, you're always gonna have a part of you that grieves it, and it's okay to not try and make sense of it, because there isn't any making sense of it. These hard things do happen, and it's hurtful, and especially on a, in a situation when it's a natural disaster and it affects everything. It's not like, I feel like with his stroke, it was just so like compartmentalized to us, like that happened to us, but the fire happened to so many people, and the land and the animals and just everything, and it's a devastation that that affects everyone differently that went through it, even though you go through the same thing, like some people went through a lot worse things than we did, and a lot of people lost loved ones, and there's not really any making sense of that, or trying to like put a positive spin on it, because there isn't, so
yeah, no, it's again, it's hard to try to figure out what God is doing and why. And we've been through that a handful of times, and especially more recently with the stroke. And some things do make sense, and we do see God's purpose in those things, and some we don't. Like I still don't know exactly why the stroke happened. We see little bits and pieces, and we catch little glimpses here and there. But we might not ever know why, and that's okay. I think finally just reconciled ourselves to, like, that's okay that we don't know everything. Like, we're not supposed to. We're finite beings, and God is infinite. He knows the end from the beginning. He sees it all. He knows exactly what he's doing and why he's doing it. And we've been through enough things to where we know that, and we can put our faith in that, and be okay with not knowing those things. And it took some learning and some growing and some going through stuff to get to that point. And it doesn't mean that it always makes things easier, because things are still difficult, and they can be difficult, and but at the end of the day, we know God is working. He's doing something. We don't know what it is all the time, but we know he's doing something, and we can thank him for that, and keep walking with him, because of that. So, we just want to leave you guys with that, I know that a lot of you guys have gone or will go through difficult times, difficult things, but just know that God is always with us. Promise he'll never leave us or forsake us, and he has a plan and a purpose in that pain, and for you specifically, and he wants to use it and is going to use it, and we just have to be humble enough and be in that position to allow him to. So I just want to leave you guys with that. Thank you so much again for watching. We love you. If you want to look back, we do have a couple episodes prior to this one, as far as the day of the fire and just our different perspectives as well. So feel free to watch those, please, and hit like and subscribe and leave a comment. Again, if you have any prayer requests, anything you need prayer for, we'd love to pray with you and for you. So thanks again for watching. Yep. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.